James Cameron was not born into privilege. His life began in the humblest of circumstances, far removed from the luxuries and opportunities that many take for granted. His childhood, set against the backdrop of a working-class town in northern England, was one of scarcity, both emotional and financial. The streets were lined with run-down buildings, a testament to the economic hardships faced by its residents. His father, a factory worker, struggled to make ends meet, often working double shifts to put food on the table. The factory's relentless grind wore him down, leaving little energy for family life. His mother, overwhelmed by the pressures of poverty and a loveless marriage, found solace at the bottom of a bottle. Her escape into alcohol only deepened the family's woes. Home for young James was a place of constant tension, neglect, and unfulfilled needs. The walls of their small house echoed with arguments and the silent cries of unmet desires. It was a place where dreams were stifled and hope seemed a distant fantasy. It was in this environment of deprivation that the seeds of James's deceit were sown. The harsh realities of his upbringing taught him that survival often required bending the truth. He learned early on that honesty was a luxury he could not afford. He quickly learned that the world responded to confidence, to charisma, to the appearance of having something that others desired. He observed how people were drawn to those who exuded self-assurance, even if it was a facade. He discovered that a well-told story, a fabricated persona, could open doors that would otherwise remain firmly shut. The power of a convincing lie became his most valuable tool. His early attempts at deception were small, almost insignificant, a fabricated excuse to avoid a schoolyard bully, an exaggerated tale of woe to elicit sympathy from a kind-hearted neighbor. These minor cons were his training ground, each one a step towards mastering the art of deceit. Each successful con, each instance where he managed to bend reality to his will, served to reinforce his belief in his own abilities. With every lie that went unchallenged, his confidence grew. As James grew older, so too did his ambition. The petty deceptions of his youth no longer held the same allure. He yearned for more excitement, more challenge, more reward. He craved the thrill of a bigger stage, the challenge of a more sophisticated mark. The small-time cons of his childhood were mere stepping stones to grander schemes. He devoured books on psychology, studying the art of persuasion, learning to identify and exploit vulnerabilities in others. He became a student of human nature, understanding what made people tick and how to manipulate their emotions. He honed his skills in the real world, observing the dynamics of human interaction, mastering the subtle art of reading body language, and detecting the telltale signs of a gullible target. Every social interaction became a lesson, every person a potential mark. By the time James reached his late teens, he was no longer the awkward, insecure boy from the wrong side of the tracks. He had shed his past like a snake sheds its skin, emerging as a new, more formidable version of himself. He had transformed into a master manipulator, a charming rogue with an uncanny ability to disarm and deceive. His charm was his weapon, his intelligence his shield. He was ready to test his skills on a larger stage, to pit his wits against the world and emerge victorious. The small town that had once confined him was now too small for his ambitions. The boy who had once dreamed of escaping his impoverished upbringing was now on the cusp of achieving something far more audacious. Notoriety, wealth, and a legacy as one of Britain's most infamous conmen. His journey from a deprived childhood to the brink of infamy was a testament to his cunning and determination. The world was about to meet James Cameron, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a master of his own destiny. James's first major con was a testament to his growing audacity and his innate understanding of human psychology. He targeted a local businessman, a self-made millionaire known for his love of rare and expensive wines. Posing as an art and antiques dealer, James contacted the businessman, claiming to have acquired a bottle of vintage Bordeaux from a deceased collector's estate. He knew that the businessman, driven by his passion for wine and his desire to outbid rivals at auction, would be susceptible to such an offer. To further entice his mark, James concocted an elaborate backstory for the wine. He claimed that the bottle had once belonged to a famous historical figure, weaving a tale of wartime intrigue and hidden treasures. He even went so far as to create forged documents and certificates of authenticity, knowing that the businessman, blinded by his desire, would be unlikely to scrutinize the paperwork too closely. The businessman, caught in the web of James's deceit, readily agreed to purchase the wine for a staggering sum. The success of his first major con emboldened James, fueling his desire for even greater risks and rewards. He realized that the key to his success lay not only in his ability to spin convincing tales, but also in his keen understanding of human nature. He recognized that people are often blinded by their own desires, whether it be greed, vanity, or the pursuit of status. He knew how to identify these weaknesses, how to exploit them to his advantage, and how to manipulate his victims into believing that they were the ones in control. Word of James's audacious con spread quickly through the underworld, solidifying his reputation as a rising star in the world of fraud. He became known for his meticulous planning, his ability to think several steps ahead of his marks, and his unwavering confidence. He was a master of disguise, able to transform himself at will to fit the persona required for each con. To some, he was a charming art dealer. To others, a successful investment banker. To still others, a wealthy philanthropist with a penchant for rare artifacts. Each persona was a carefully crafted illusion designed to disarm and deceive. James's scams were never about brute force or overt threats. They were intricate performances carefully orchestrated to exploit the vulnerabilities of his targets. He understood that the most successful cons were those where the victim remained blissfully unaware of the deception, often until it was too late. He operated on the principle of give a little to get a lot, initially gaining his victim's trust by offering seemingly legitimate opportunities or by appealing to their desire for easy money. One of James's preferred tactics was the advance fee scam. He would approach individuals, often elderly or financially vulnerable, with promises of large inheritances or lottery winnings. He would then request a small upfront payment to cover legal fees or processing costs, assuring his victims that their investment would be returned many times over. Of course, the promised riches never materialized, and James would disappear with the victim's money, leaving them emotionally and financially devastated. Another common tactic employed by James was the pyramid scheme. He would recruit individuals into a business opportunity that promised high returns with minimal effort. The early investors, enticed by the initial payouts, would then be encouraged to recruit new members, with each new recruit generating a commission for those above them in the pyramid. However, such schemes are inherently unsustainable, relying on a constant influx of new recruits to keep the money flowing. Eventually, the pyramid would collapse, leaving the vast majority of participants with significant financial losses. As James's cons grew in scale and audacity, so too did the attention he attracted from law enforcement. The police were constantly on his trail, trying to piece together his intricate schemes and gather enough evidence for an arrest. Yet James always seemed to be one step ahead, disappearing before the net could close in. His ability to evade capture only added to his mystique, turning him into a near-mythical figure in the criminal underworld. He had an uncanny knack for detecting surveillance, often changing his appearance, using aliases, and moving between safe houses to stay off the grid. He was also a master of manipulation, able to charm his way out of sticky situations and convince potential witnesses to remain silent. There were whispers of corrupt officials on his payroll, tipping him off about police raids and providing him with inside information. One particular close call involved a high-stakes art forgery ring. James had convinced a group of wealthy investors to pool their money, for the purchase of what he claimed was a lost masterpiece by a renowned artist. The painting was, of course, a fake, meticulously crafted by a forger James had hired. As the police closed in on the operation, James managed to escape with the investors' money, leaving behind his accomplices to face the consequences. This incident, while highlighting James's cunning and ruthlessness, also marked a turning point in his criminal career. The stakes were getting higher, the risks greater, and the potential consequences more severe. He had tasted the thrill of success, but he had also glimpsed the abyss that awaited him if he faltered.